This is the last of the vignettes about my new book that's just come out, The Interleukin Revolution. And this vignette has to do with the very last chapter in this book that has to do with the lowest dose interleukin-2 immunotherapy and the genesis of that. Turns out that I was in my little cedar-lined study in Hanover in the spring of 1989, March as a matter of fact, and I was sitting in front of my little fireplace and leafing through the Journal of Experimental Medicine, and I came across this paper by this group from the Rockefeller University, and the senior person was Zan Cohen, who I knew. He had spent his entire career since the mid-50s working on phagocytes, and in particular macrophages. And turns out this paper that I came across, it was all about the injection of interleukin-2 into leprosy patients. And they just did one dose, 10 micrograms, and then they studied the effects. And it turns out that what they found was that there was an increase in the number of cytotoxic CD4 positive T cells. And of course, that harkened me back to Alice Reinhardt's, who was really the first to show that CD4 positive cells, which are usually called helpers, actually can also kill. So I fired off a letter to Zan, and I said, hey, that was really a great paper, I thought. And he sent me a letter back in the return mail saying, yeah, we think so too, which stimulated me to write him a longer letter and invite myself down to the Rockefeller because I wanted to see what these people were doing. And it turns out that I had a very nice visit in the summertime of 1989, and the upshot of that whole visit is that they invited me on a trek to Nepal, up into the Himalayan mountains, to extend this kind of IL-2 therapy. And they did it for 8 days, subcutaneous, twice a day, a low dose, around 10 micrograms. And that was quite an adventure. We were there for 2.5, 3 weeks at the Mission Anandaban Hospital, which was a leprosy hospital that had been established in the 1950s. The upshot of that whole thing is that the interleukin-2 therapy was not toxic like it was when Rosenberg was using them like 100 times more, but it had serious effects on the immune system. Number one, both the CD4 and the CD8 positive T cells increased about 2 or 3-fold only over 8 days. And the natural killer cells increased about 6-fold over that time period. And meanwhile, when they waited and 2 months later biopsied the skin of these individuals that had leprosy, there was a marked reduction in the number of bacteria. And so that whole experience influenced me in terms of the direction that I took for the next decade or more, because I decided that this interleukin-2 therapy was a good way to boost the immune system. To make a long story short, I emigrated to New York City, took up a position at Cornell Medical School, and started treating HIV-positive individuals.